March 1964. America teetered on the edge of change. The civil rights movement was challenging centuries of racial segregation. At the forefront stood Malcolm X, whose voice resonated through the streets. This period marked his break from the Nation of Islam and the blossoming of his independent political consciousness. Malcolm X in 1964 was a symbol of black resistance, embodying the anger and yearning for freedom in black America. He had risen from poverty and prison, his intellect sharpened by self-education. His message, a blend of black nationalism and Pan-Africanism, offered an alternative to Martin Luther King Jr.'s non-violent approach. By 1964, the limitations of the Nation of Islam's ideology were apparent to him. His travels abroad broadened his perspective, leading to his decisive break from the organization. March 1964 was a period of intense activity for Malcolm X. Freed from the Nation of Islam, his voice took on a new urgency. He spoke at universities, churches, and street corners, captivating audiences with his indictment of racial injustice. One significant address was his speech at the founding rally of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, OAU. This organization reflected his evolving political philosophy, advocating for human rights and self-determination. Malcolm's break from the Nation of Islam sent shockwaves through the civil rights movement. He challenged the efficacy of nonviolence, arguing that black people had a right to defend themselves. His fiery rhetoric resonated deeply with those impatient with the slow pace of change. His speeches were calls to action, urging black people to seize control of their own destiny. Malcolm X's departure from the Nation of Islam marked a profound evolution in his thinking. His travels to Africa and the Middle East exposed him to the global dimensions of the struggle for human rights. This experience broadened his perspective, leading him to embrace a more inclusive vision of social justice. Malcolm engaged with a wider range of political ideologies, delving into the works of revolutionary thinkers. He saw parallels between the black experience in America and the struggles of colonized people worldwide. This internationalist perspective informed his vision for the OAU. His travels also deepened his understanding of Islam, leading him to embrace a more universal interpretation. This spiritual transformation distanced him from the Nation of Islam's racially based theology. His nuanced understanding of these issues allowed him to connect with a broader audience. Malcolm X was a man of undeniable charisma and conviction, yet beneath the surface lay a complex individual grappling with evolving beliefs. His private life reveals a man wrestling with doubt, uncertainty, and the constant threat of violence. Letters and reflections show a Malcolm increasingly aware of his own mortality, concerned for his family's safety. While his public pronouncements were fiery, in private, Malcolm engaged in thoughtful dialogue with opposing views. He was not afraid to admit when his thinking had evolved, contributing to his enduring appeal. He understood the need to project strength, yet privately grappled with the human costs of the struggle. This duality makes him a more compelling and relatable figure. Malcolm X's legacy is one of both profound admiration and fierce criticism. Supporters view him as a visionary leader who inspired generations to fight for self-determination. His critiques of systemic racism continue to resonate today. Critics focus on his more inflammatory rhetoric, arguing it promoted violence and sowed division. Some accuse him of reverse racism, pointing to his pronouncements about white people. The reality is far more nuanced than either extreme. Malcolm's legacy cannot be reduced to simplistic binaries of hero or villain. He was a product of his time, shaped by segregation and racial violence. His impact transcends polarized viewpoints, challenging America to confront its own racism.